Hey, it's not nerd, and it's late. As promised, here's the code review for, well, it's not code review per se, it's more just what am I trying to do with this thing sort of video. So it wasn't in quite a good state before, but I've sort of ran ahead of myself a bit too much, and there's too much spread across the entire code basically. So some spaghetti has been created. That's the point where this code base is at now. But it's a back and forth between refactoring at the minute and trying to reduce the spread of the spaghetti. So, which is something that happens quite a lot when especially when you're coding something solo like this. So let me just get this into a presentation mode and just talk about what I'm doing here and where I'm, well, just for myself and for anyone who's interested, where I'm going on. So this is the engine code. You got the reassignable globals up here, which basically control the mechanics of the game essentially. So the code currently is split into two files. There's the Papyrus JS, which is just the logic and the mechanics of the game, and components which load in specific components into A-frame, which handles more like behaviors and properties sort of thing. So these probably going to get deleted. It's just some references to the queries of the scene and the assets. Or asset loading does need improving anyway, but the actual JSON of the game gets loaded in. All the sort of like configurations files which are required for actually setting up your own game is set up here. Like it'll load data, it's a synchronous function. So it just makes sure that the code this function just makes sure that all these the player config, for example, the textures are config, and you can configure all of those individually. There is one huge big sort of god object in this code, which is basically proven to be the main problem at the minute with the code as it is. So a god object, if you're not familiar in programming lingo, means a function that's just basically handling too much. It's too long, it's too complex. So that one is the room creation function, which is the core part of the engine, really, right? I actually got the code for that, the starting point from that, from something I found online, and I'm probably pushing it beyond the scope of the original, what it was originally intended to do, which was basically to create simple square by square rooms. But that's a good way to learn. Anyway, so I've got all the loaders here, so it basically loads the JSON, fetches just a fetch request and get JSON back. That's for all this. That's what all this stuff is here. Not really that optimized. It's just at the minute I'm just loading it in. Set up player info. This is causing me a little bit of a headache at the minute because like I'm setting it to player 1 just for the option for multiplayer potentially in the future, but that again, it's sort of I'm probably thinking too far ahead and getting too far ahead of myself basically. But yeah, you've got the health, and that's all set in a JSON file. So again, like if you see the other videos I've made before, the core mechanics are based on D&D, and I'm essentially making a sort of Doom clone of sorts in 3D and supporting VR. That's where it's going now. So it's changed a lot, but then the way I always approach any of these programming projects, this is a side project, it's not my main job. I have to go to sleep for that tomorrow. Quite shortly, in about 30 minutes. This add characters again is like something from the old one. Torch is an old idea. How I'm actually I'm doing it, as you can see, I'm using a lot of vanilla JS in there to actually do the attribute setting, but I'm mixing these two methods. So I'm setting the attributes directly using a bit of Object 3D in some places, and trying to use more components basically for the entire infrastructure, if you will, of the actual game itself. Next scene again is interactive fiction stuff. All this is interactive. So there's like a lot of, because I've changed the sort of idea of what I actually want to achieve, the actual, a lot of this is probably redundant, right? Now, this gargantuan, what is it, 159 to it's way too long. Basically it's 300 lines. Now, that's not horrific. That's not, you'll hear people talk about 1,000-line functions, but it does mean that there's a huge, like, if you can imagine if you're editing this file, and you need to search for something, it's getting to the point now it's causing me a headache, because I have to, I mean, obviously I can do Control F and look around, but then if you've got tons of spread over the code, it becomes harder to manage in your head, right? And harder just to, the picture in your mind starts to blur a bit. So let me talk a little bit about what Create Rooms does. So I've loaded in the map data here. That's the array, which is like zeros and ones, twos, threes, fours, numbers. There's various settings you can also apply in the JSON. So essentially what this entire system is doing is JSON is creating the entire, it's basically configuration files which then create maps, basic environments, and the interactivity. That's the entire point of the engine. So yeah, and like there's only pre-assigned textures in the minute, so you'd have, this is probably quite bad. Like I probably need to make it so that you can, but again, scope, I keep on just getting quite intimidated by the size of how the project's getting, basically. You got some settings here, and a lot of this like stuff is hard coded at the minute, and because I'm sort of like injecting via JavaScript, HTML. That's starting to get very complicated. So there's that. This is the main loop that actually creates the environment in the game. So basically there's a for loop, basic for loop, height and width. I've explained all that before, but as you can see, it's just like, at the minute I'm just trying to also add in the player camera and player face and aiming, and which is basically just hard coded on stage HTML at the minute. But that, again, it's too gargantuan, and a lot of this can be reduced. All of this works, and the enemy, and basically assigning the different walls and everything. Again, probably what I need to do, which would make it a lot simpler, and I'll probably just do it when I have spare time in the next few weeks and the weekends, is I don't want to get rid of a lot of this code, but I need to start splitting it, basically. So this isn't all encoded. All of this encoded. Sorry, wrong word. All of this code is currently in one huge monolithic file called Papyrus.js, and then the separate components file. What needs to happen is that I need to separate it and do some exporting and importing of different, whatever specific functions are required, basically. I've done this before in my commercial work. It's just a case of splitting everything up. So for example, we've got the map, there's like just everything is basically contained in here. So the room creation, which again is quite large, the add button, and it's like two spread, so I need to basically tidy that up. I've started programming in some stuff, melee combat attacks, which is a function based on, at the minute it's basically based on D&D, but there is a bug because at the minute it was working before at an earlier point, but basically now some unknown bug is causing it so that if when you hit, that works, but then the damage is applied and the enemy health is way too much and it just dies straight away when it shouldn't do. Anyway, there's a combat function. I need to also add in some range stuff. Get player health, just returns the player's health. But anyway, as I was saying, this is too much spread. I'll show you also so it's definitely refactor time, evil refactor time. So I'm gonna have to be a bit brutal, get in here, just remove stuff that's not used. So this is the components file, for example. This is currently at, what is it, 600 lines, and Papyrus itself is at 500. So overall that's 1,000 lines of JavaScript. And to get this actually finished will probably be 1,500 lines of JS, I think, something like that. So it's just refactoring time. I will, like you can see, there's just like this complete. Like I had this idea of doing a map, like a 2D map, but again, actually I'm going to just delete it now because it's just overkill for now. And like I can always track back. The good thing is that I've got a this is like I'm using source control, so I can even go back in the source control to where I did that, add in that map, and just if I need to plunk that code back in, I can plunk it back in again, and it's not going to kill anything, right? It's not going to kill the entire code base straight away. I'll just quickly show where I'm at, and then I'll wrap this vlog up, I think. So this is probably will have multiple errors and not work properly, but again, it's just like, it's basically not moved forward a great deal because of this bugs, but you can, if I can just like, I kill one of these guys, you get that quite satisfying noise. So I'm just go around punching you guys, punching demons in the crotch. Take that. And then just imagine this in VR. Obviously, I need to take out that. This is a bit of a bug, but it doesn't really seem to occur in VR. So yeah, it's just like at the minute it's in like bug time, fix bugs, refactor. So what actually is happening when the combat's happening is there's a nan being returned, which just means not a number. So that means that there's something wrong somewhere, which I assume is causing an issue. Punch him in the crotch. So I hit there's a simulated dice roll over 5. I missed, so that doesn't do anything. It's basically D&D. And then I've hit the guy, the demon. Enemy health is reassigned to -5, so I think it's like taking off a 0 value or something. I don't know, I'm not sure. I need to fix that one. Enemy's dead. But yeah, that is the that'll probably conclude that. So next stages, take it a bit slower, then try and do everything at once, and yeah, that's it really. If there's any lesson here from my noir nerds, it's run a bit, but then slow down and walk when you need to, basically. Anyway, that's that. I've been Noir Nerd. Keep it real, I guess. I'm gonna have good sleep now. Got work tomorrow for the next week. So yeah, that's the quick code review. And if you've got an interest in the project, by the way, just check out the GitHub. I'm probably going to create a website for it at some point. I wanted to, come to the point where it actually does get used by people, so that's why I'm really working to make sure that it can be usable for as many people as possible, and that I want to make it something at least half decent, that people can build on if they want even. Alright, that's that. I'm signing off.